The greenhouse stood at the edge of the Winstead estate, cloaked under years of neglect and strangled ivy. Long ago it had harbored orchids, roses, and fruit-bearing vines, but now the glass panes were streaked with moss and dust, the metal frames warped by time and weather. Genevieve hadn't stepped foot near it since her mother died, allegedly by her own hand inside that very structure, but after inheriting the property, curiosity peeled her resistance like old paint. The key, heavy and ornate, groaned in the lock as if protesting her return. Inside, the air was warmer than it should have been for a spring evening, with a sickly sweetness that clung to the back of her throat. Something about the scent teased a memory she couldn't place, as though her childhood tried whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. She moved slowly among broken pots and shriveled remnants of life, the soles of her boots crunching across dormant soil and shattered glass. In the far corner, half obscured behind a rusted shelving unit, she found the door that led to the conservatory annex, an area her mother had kept private, always locked, always forbidden. But now it had been left ajar. The hinges resisted as she pushed it open with her shoulder, revealing a second chamber swaddled in vines and parasitic growths clinging to the ceiling like veins. A single chair sat in the center, grand and high-backed, covered in mildew but oddly regal. Around it, terracotta planters formed a circle with skeletal roots that writhed through the cracks in the tiles. She could have sworn the air thickened the longer she stood there, as though being watched by every leaf, every vine wrapped tightly around the forgotten space. Each night after her visit, the dreams grew more vivid, if they were dreams at all. She'd wake drenched in sweat with dirt under her fingernails or petals in her hair. One morning her calendar was marked with an unfamiliar symbol, scratched in deep red ink that smelled faintly metallic. At breakfast, a jar of honey she hadn't touched in years was open, with sticky fingerprints around the rim. She lived alone. Shadows in her peripheral vision began to flit when she passed reflective surfaces, and the air in her home took on the same spoiling sweetness of the greenhouse. Her phone calls echoed with a second, breathy line, as though someone were breathing steadily just behind her words. And every night, no matter how securely she locked it, the door to the greenhouse was open by morning, swinging lightly on its hinges as if inviting her back. Genevieve began cataloging the oddities in a journal, trying to rationalize, to make lists, to grasp at something stable. Her mother had done the same, she discovered, in a diary hidden beneath the hollow floorboard beneath the annex chair. It was filled with sketches of vines, spidery symbols, and long passages that became increasingly erratic. One entry chilled her. It doesn't grow toward the sun. It grows toward memory. Pages described whispered names at dusk, the names of family members long dead, and rituals involving blood pricked from the tip of the tongue. The last page was ominously blank, save for an imprint, a pressure stain, as if someone had written ferociously and then torn it away, leaving behind only the ghost of words. Genevieve set it aside, heart-pounding, as the wind moaned through the broken glass above her. One evening, she brought her friend Miriam, hoping a second set of eyes would prove her descent into paranoia was unfounded, or at least shared. As they approached the greenhouse, Miriam slowed, staring at the structure with a furrowed brow as though trying to remember something just out of reach. Inside, Miriam grew quiet, uneasy, as though the air were pressing into her skin. "Your mother's chair," she muttered. "It shouldn't be there." Genevieve snapped her focus to the center of the annex. The chair had moved. Now it faced the entrance. On the cushion sat something that hadn't been there before. A corsage of rotted flowers, threaded with slick, black stems still glistening with dew. Neither of them reached for it. They left in shaking silence, but after Miriam left for the night, Genevieve discovered her own boots caked with fresh soil again. There had been no rain. The following week, Miriam stopped returning messages. Her own phone began receiving blurry photographs, images of the greenhouse at odd hours, bathed in unnatural colors, sometimes with a figure just at the edge of the frame. Genevieve sought help, but with each attempt, memories of her mother grew louder. Not just thoughts, voices. Fragments of lullabies sung backward, pleas whispered through the vents of her home. Soon the plants outside the greenhouse flexed and turned when she passed them. One night, under a heavy moon, she unlocked the annex again, found her mother's diary open to a page that hadn't been there before. It simply said, "It's waiting for you to remember." As her breathing grew shallow and the greenhouse seemed to fold its shadows around her, something rose slowly from the high-backed chair, taller than any person should be, and called her name. Except it wasn't her name anymore.